A copy of War and Peace, a pack of ham with the word peace written on it, and a sheet of paper with asterisks.
I was arrested just for 30 seconds.
Holding items like these in public could get you in trouble with authorities in Russia under new legislation introduced in recent weeks.
What we're seeing now is a near wipeout of any ability to speak out.
Moscow puts much effort into presenting a well-curated image of the war to the population.
Основное – это обеспечить безопасность местных жителей.
The message inside Russia is that its soldiers are defending the Ukrainian population from their own army and government. Attempts to question it have been stifled. The Wall Street Journal reviewed police documents and spoke with people inside Russia to understand how far the Kremlin is going to control the public's perception of the war in Ukraine. In the early days of the invasion, people took to the streets across Russia to protest, but within weeks, most of the visible signs of dissent had disappeared. To understand why, first we have to look at the language the Kremlin is using to shape public opinion. When officials in the media talk about Russia's actions in Ukraine, they don't use words such as war and invasion.
Безопасность людей на востоке Украины.
The flip side is people can be legally liable for talking about peace in public or promoting anti-war slogans. Like this detention in the center of Moscow in mid-March. A young man stood with a sheet of paper which, at first glance, didn't even look like an anti-war poster. It just showed 8 asterisks.
These 8 stars mean «нет войне», or in English, no to the war.
Dmitry Reznikov, a sociology student at a Moscow university, is the man seen in this video. A copy of the police report reviewed by WSJ said that Dmitry discredited Russian forces with his poster. This is a violation under an amendment to existing law that was swiftly passed in March, weeks after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Punishments now include fines of up to the equivalent of $12,000 for discrediting the army and up to 15 years in prison for publishing anything deemed to be false information about the war. Dmitry was fined equivalent to some $600, but he says his poster has nothing to do with discrediting the army.
My poster expresses 2 main ideas. The first one is a pacifist position. The second idea concerns censorship in our country. Today in Russia, any publicly expressed opinion that contradicts the position of the government is a big risk.
The word peace itself is among those that can discredit Russian forces, according to prosecutors in the country. Maxim Salekh was fined the equivalent of $600 for holding a pack of ham. He changed the logo to read peace in Russian. And Konstantin Goldman stood silently with a book of War and Peace next to a monument to the city of Kyiv near the Kremlin wall. He was detained minutes later after a woman reported him to a police officer, found guilty of protesting near the presidential residence, and fined, according to his lawyer. All 3 men pleaded not guilty.
What this indicates is essentially that nothing that might even be taken as a sign of dissent is allowed in Russia right now. And so if you're even standing in a public square holding a piece of paper, whatever that piece of paper says, you're signaling to the public that you're out there protesting.
More than 15,000 anti-war protesters have been detained since the start of the invasion, according to OVD Info, an independence rights group.
It shows the great lengths that the Kremlin is going to snuff out dissent to make sure that its message of unity behind the war is coming across.
The Kremlin didn't respond to the journal's request for comment on arrests of anti-war protesters and restrictions on freedom of speech in the country. Russian authorities have said they hear those who don't support their actions and are working to explain their goals in Ukraine. In April, 74% of respondents backed Russia's campaign in Ukraine, according to the independent pollster Levada Center. Some sociologists say opinion polls aren't necessarily accurate in contexts where people are often afraid to criticize the government. Still, in parts of the country, there continue to be small protests and signs of dissent, like this No to War sign that briefly appeared on the ice of St. Petersburg, and protesters say many others, like them, disagree with the government.
The world should know that there are a lot of people in Russia who are against this war.